Hi, and welcome to BookDrops. I'm Sarah Flynn. I'm the manager of the Popular Library, and joining me today.
Hi, I'm Libby McEwen, and I'm the children's librarian at the West Park branch.
Nice, and Libby agreed to join me today because we both love romance, and we have already started talking about it a little and sharing our books, so we can't wait to share them with you. And we decided to talk about a few kind of upfront that we've both read and enjoyed and are pretty popular right now, just to get everything going. And we'd love to hear back from you, what you're reading, and if you've read any of these and any suggestions you have for us too. So first, I think we have to talk about Bridgerton. It's like taken the world by storm because it's such a big hit on Netflix. So we have all the assorted books. So it's really a fun series. I think it's like, even for like new romance kind of readers, it's a classic in that the series focuses each one on a different sibling, which is really nice because you get to know each one throughout. And the show is so popular too. So had you seen the show first or read the books first?
I watched the first season of the show, and then I started reading the books, and I think I was on the second book while the second season came out, and then I went from there.
Nice. I read them a while ago before the show, and then watched the show, and then I've kind of been going back and catching up. And there's a trailer for season 3 now, and they're going to skip the older brother Benedict and go to Colin, who's a younger brother, since their storyline is kind of highlighted a little in season 2. So that should be kind of fun. So these are really, I think, if you like the show, I think they're worth reading. They're a little bit different, like we were saying.
Yeah.
There's some things that they kind of chose to just go off and do their
Go
own
off the
way.
rails.
Yeah. So it's kind of, fun if you did enjoy the show to read them and see what the differences are.
Yeah, one of the things I really like about these books, the formatting is really similar in a lot of them, and there's even some things where it's like copy paste into the books, and I think sometimes that can be comforting when you know what to expect. So I do like that a lot about these books.
Yeah. And my favorite, which is in season 2, is they have like a sibling rivalry with like croquet, and they have like a black like mallet of death, and like whoever gets it is like powerful, and it's a super cute premise. So
Yep.
I really like these.
I do too.
Okay. Tell me, actually, I love this author, so I want to hear about this.
So next we have Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. Love Tessa Bailey, everything she writes. So this is the second in the series. I think it's the Bellinger sister series. So It Happened One Summer was the first one. Loved that book.
So much.
I think I do have to stereotypically say I liked the first book better, but
I do
I loved this one too. Piper is the sister in the first book. Her sister Hannah is the main character in this one. In the first book, Piper goes to a small fishing town in Washington, and she's very much like a Hollywood LA girl. So it's a big change for her. And in the second book, Hannah follows her up there to help film a movie. And she needs a place to stay. So she stays with Piper's boyfriend's friend, Fox. And they definitely want to keep things platonic, but it doesn't necessarily stay that way. So this one's just really fun. It's cheesy in the way that so many romances are, but I love that. So that's one of the reasons I like it. You said you read it too?
Yeah. Light and funny, and somebody compared is Piper the first sister?
Yeah.
To the Schitt's Creek sister.
Oh, yes.
And it's kind of similar, like a little bit
Yeah.
of an airhead, but super sweet and like takes care of everyone. And so I think it's like a good similarity. It's kind of light and funny, but also like touching.
Yeah, it has the whole, a man kind of wanting to turn his life around because he found the right girl kind of thing to it. And I like that a lot.
And kind of hot too.
Yes, absolutely.
No, Tessa, and she's really funny on social media. Tessa Bailey, if you haven't seen her, she just makes
I haven't.
funny
Gotta
videos.
check that out.
She'll just be like banging her head against a wall trying to like write whatever she's writing now, or complaining about something, or she'll pretend to be like a hero, and it's great.
That's fun.
The last time I talked about romance, about my love for Beverly Jenkins, and I'm going to continue because she's amazing and I keep reading her. So have you read her?
I haven't, but I remember you telling me about this one, so it's definitely on my
Yes.
to be read.
So I may have talked about Tempest last time, but I think Wild Rain is new since I talked about them before. So these are so like in the best historical romance way possible. I can't believe I haven't read her till more recently. Tempest, he is I forget these are like Montana or kind of like out west, post Civil War. He's a doctor. Um, they're African American, and he gets a mail order bride. And she shows up, and she is not demure and quiet and all of the things he was wanting. And she just kind of takes his town by storm, and it's fantastic. And I want to just keep talking about it and try and sell it, but just read it, and you'll agree that I'm right. You meet the doctor's sister, who is super independent, owns her own ranch, which was unheard of back at this time, and this is her story. So Wild Rain is, I think her name is Spring, super independent, had some like things happen to her in the past. She's just on her own, doesn't need anyone, and a newspaper man comes to town, and he's just a sweetheart, and it's lovely. So it's just what you expect and happily ever after, and you don't need to worry about, if there's some bad stuff, it just kind of floats away. And I did want to say we didn't mention, but a lot of these, some of these we're going to get into, do have some darker elements, or there's a whole range of romance from like cozy where nothing bad happens at all to like kind of dark like mafia or things like that that have a lot more in it. So before you read, just you can always check like trigger warnings, or there are sites that'll list like what happens in the book in case you want to avoid certain topics.
And people read romance for such different reasons.
Definitely.
I even do. I read different ones at different times for different reasons. So what we like, you might not like.
Definitely. Yeah. So we have a whole range here.
So I'm a little bit newer to the historical romance thing, but I'm very much enjoying it. So this was one of the first series I started. It's the Countess of Harley series. This one is the first one, A Lady's Guide to Etiquette and Murder. So this is the story of Frances, and she has just recently gotten out of a bad prearranged marriage because her husband died. So she's very excited about her new independence. She moves her and her daughter out to a townhouse in the city. And shortly after that, the police come to her house to tell her that someone informed them she might have had a hand in her husband's death. So she is determined to prove her innocence. She gets really involved in the case. The only thing is there was a little bit of a scandal in her husband's death. So the only other person who knows about it is her super cute neighbor, George. So he has to help her out, and romance ensues. So this is a really sweet romance. It's not like overly passionate or anything like that. I think there's 5 books in it, so it's kind of a slow burn throughout the 5 books. And it's really sweet. And Frances is a really strong, independent woman character, and I like that a lot. And George is just so supportive. So it's just really great in romances to see the nice, supportive men. So I really loved that in this one. Like we were talking about Bridgerton, some of those books are like really formatted the way they are. These ones aren't quite. You get the same character personalities throughout, the reoccurring characters, but each book kind of has its own mystery or crime, and so you get something a little bit different each book. So I like that a lot. And it ended at just the right time, I think. It wasn't like when you watch a TV show and you're like, that last season didn't need to happen. So if you write another one, I'll read it, Diane Freeman, but I think this was perfect.
I have 2. A lot of times, and romance has been criticized, quite rightly, for not being very diverse. So people have been trying to correct that for the past maybe 5, 8 years. And, publishing has been trying to be more diverse. So I wanted to point out 2 that I've recently read, which has kind of diverse heroines, which is really nice. So this one, Diana Quincy, Her Night with the Duke. This one, her mother is Arabic and her father is British. and she's a widow. So she kind of has her independence. She does a lot of travel writing, and is stranded at a coaching house one night and has a one night stand and is traveling to see her stepdaughter, who she's really close to. Gets there, and her stepdaughter's betrothed is the one she slept with the night before. So it's a pretty good premise. Yeah, it's really fun in that historical way. And then Jeannie Lin, Butterfly Swords, but it's set during the Tang Dynasty. There's 6 books in it. There's a Princess A. Lee, and she's fleeing her wedding. She doesn't want to marry. She's supposed to marry this old warlord. She does not want any part of it. She runs away, and matches up with this kind of like outsider, who's like a bitter soldier, and they have to like travel together. It's really fun. She's super tough. She has butterfly swords, which I think are just smaller, like 2 swords. So it's awesome that she's super tough.
Okay, my next is is Never Fall for Your Fiance. In this one, Hugh, his mother really wants him to get married, and he does not. So he makes up a fake fiance. But then his mom's going to come to town, so he has to produce a fiance. He runs into Minerva, and she's the perfect person for it. So he convinces her to pretend to be his fiance while his mother comes into town. She really needs the money, so she agrees to do it. But she has 2 sisters who have to come along with her. There are other actors who are hired to play different parts, so you can just assume that things are going to go crazy. So one of the things that I like about this book is the characters are so themselves. So acting these parts, it's just, they can't do it. And so they make constant mistakes, and it just gets so ridiculous, but it's really fun and really sweet. And yeah, this was a fun one. I like this one a lot. And I believe that there's a second one coming out or just came out soon. So.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
And I was going to say, I shared 2, and then I've got another group, so give me one more of yours.
So this one is To Heaven to Hoax. I was saying before, I really like this one because it's one of the most extra romances I've ever read. So James and Violet, yes, James and Violet get married, immediately have this big fight, and for the next 5 years, they just barely talk to each other, civil to each other at home, but have nothing to do with each other. Violet gets a letter that James has been injured, and she rushes to his side, and it turns out that he's just totally fine. She gets mad and decides that she's going to fake being deathly ill. So once again, hires actors to prove that she's sick. James figures it out pretty quickly that it's not real, and they just pretty much mess with each other the whole book. So it's really funny. The characters are super fun. They show up in the later books. Each of those side characters get to play the main character in some of the later books. Like I said, just completely extra, super cheesy, super fun.
Oh my gosh. I just looked over, and we couldn't get our hands on them because they're so popular right now, but we both read them. Emily Henry. So Beach Read, I think the newer one is Book Lovers and People We Meet on Vacation, which I recommend. I think you do too. They're kind of their own, yeah, they're contemporary, kind of rom-com, a little bit serious. They usually like dealing with some, personal things, and that keeps them from having like successful relationships in the past. And so I'd say, a little bit of drama, a little bit of rom-com, but yeah, not like a traditional romance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I like in Book Lovers, they kind of joke a little bit about some of the romance story tropes.
Yes.
So that's fun.
Yes,
definitely. And her
definitely.
sister's name is Libby, which I love.
Hilarious. And they're both work in the book industry, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, I love all of those. So. And then I wanted to highlight, speaking of diversity, I wanted to highlight some LGBTQ romances, and I can't say enough about all of these. I just finished Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall, which is the book before this one, but it wasn't on the shelf, so I have to read Husband Material next. Boyfriend Material, set in England. There's a kind of a party boy, young, just kind of, carefree, and his parents were like 70s kind of like rock stars, so he's in the tabloids a lot, and he like has made a bunch of mistakes, and is trying to like clean up his act a little. So he fake dates a very straight-laced lawyer who's very prim and proper, and they start to get to know each other and realize neither one is how they seem on the outside. And it's lovely and touching and cozy, and I can't wait to read
If you
husband
fake
material.
a relationship, you're always gonna end up
It's
in it.
gonna, yeah, work. So go and try it, because in romances it works 100% of the time. Oh my gosh. And I'm gonna sneak in Alexis Hall. Trying to read everything that he writes. There's another one where the heroine is trans, and it's great. This one is also historical and LGBT. It is so much fun. It's like a rom-com, but historical. There's a duke, and he's snooty, and he's betrothed to this woman who's a twin, and she runs off. She doesn't want to marry him, and her twin shows up at his door like, we are gonna go find my sister. I'm gonna drag you, and you're gonna like make an honest woman of her. And they have this like carriage ride that's crazy through, you know, all these towns, and slowly start to really like each other. It's great. And sneaking in one more, Erica Ridley, The Perks of Loving a Wallflower. And this is a series about the Winchester family, which are kind of like an adopted, kind of like cobbled together family in England. And it's a lovely historical. Thomasina is like a master of disguise. The family kind of like solves like mysteries, and she dresses up like either like old ladies, and is always like running around, and is just like stopped in her tracks because she just thinks that it's Philippa is just like stunning.
Aw.
And through all of these like little capers, they get thrown in each other's way, and
Aw.
it's very cute.
I have an LGBT one too. This one is called Count Your Lucky Stars. This is in a series as well. I think this is the third one in the series. So Margot and Olivia knew each other in high school. They were best friends, and they had a little fling, and then hadn't seen each other for years. It went south. So they're thrown together again later on, and both are very unsure of what the other one is feeling. So they kind of get stuck together. The one needs somewhere to stay, so they stay in an apartment together, and you know, things go from there. So it's just a great one of, you know, finding yourself, being able to actually feel your feelings. And I really like that. Yeah, this was my favorite one in the series. The first one was really good too, but they're all good, so check them out.
Nice. And sneaking another one, I like Bringing Down the Duke
Yeah.
too. I read this too.
So this is Bringing Down the Duke. In this story, I'm not going to remember, Annabelle, that's the main character's name. She's in one of the first group of women to go to Oxford University. And so in order to keep her scholarship, she has to try and convince men of influence to support the suffragette movement. So there's a handsome duke who would be the perfect person for her to convince, and it just so happens he's looking for a wife. So as she's trying to convince him, there may be some romance. So
Yes.
this is another really good one of some very strong, independent females. Yeah, so I really like that in here, and it's fun seeing them kind of get these guys to see their their way of things. So, yeah, their way of thinking. So I really enjoyed that in these ones.
There's a good early scene where they're like passing out flyers in front of Parliament, and he's super powerful and well known, and all of the other women are like, we're not gonna go up to him and give him this flyer. And she's like, I'll go, and just stomps up to him, and it's fearless. That's really great.
And it's got the whole like class doesn't matter, love matters. I'm a sucker for that.
Yeah, it's so good. I've got some. I feel like I've been doing kind of sweet, cute ones, so I'm gonna sneak in some darker ones if you enjoy a little suspense or you like things that are a little darker. These two are both mafia, and I usually go a little lighter, a little more historical, and I did these. I was like, oh, never mind, because these are so fun in their own way because they're dangerous and the heroines in these are all super strong as well, which is great. So Katie Robert, this is the O'Malley series, and like Bridgerton, you're getting a different sibling in each book. This is the Marriage Contract, which is book 1, and I do get them all confused now, but I think this is the one, the woman, it's two like rival mob families trying to make alliances too, so it almost has that like historical thing of like arranged marriages because you're trying to marry to consolidate power. And she's super tough. She's supposed to get married to this mob boss guy who she doesn't know anything about, so she decides to go follow him. And gets in a lot of trouble, and he's a really bad guy, and she gets mixed up in all of this stuff, and whew, it's yeah, definitely, murder, running around, lots of, kind of dark stuff, but still a romance in that there is a great guy waiting to help her out, and they figure out everything together. So and then The Master by Cressley Cole. And I read a lot of Cressley Cole paranormal kind of stuff back in the 90s. And she's pretty known for vampire stuff and paranormal. But this is a series. He's a super, I think it's like a Russian mobster in Florida. And she needs quick cash and pretends to be a call girl just to like, get cash to help her over this hurdle. And it's, yeah, dark, mobstery, but still, and like very sexy, but very fun.
All right, my next two aren't dark, but they are spooky.
Yay!
So I recently have gotten really into this whole witch romance thing. So this first one, The Ex-Hex, it's, was so wonderful. I'm like, I need to read every witch romance there is now. And it's perfect time for spooky season. So all you boys and girls out there who are excited about spooky season, perfect timing for this. And her second book in this series is coming out soon too, I think. So this one's The Ex-Hex. Vivian and Reese, that's his name. They dated for a little while. They broke up. And feeling heartbroken, she is a witch. He's a warlock, she's a witch. She puts a curse on him.
Good.
Just, not really thinking it's going to do anything. Years later, Reese has to come back to town to perform just a little bit of magic on the town, and this curse manifests really bad. And so they're kind of thrown together, and they have to figure out how to make the curse stop. So they kind of, hate each other a little bit in the beginning because they're exes, but they figure out how to put that behind them. Yeah, this is a super fun one. It has a talking cat, which every witch book needs.
Yes.
And I just kind of want to be a witch now. So
yeah.
this was a perfect book. My second witchy book, which, I'm online looking up all the witch romances now. This is Go Hex Yourself. This one is fun because the main character, Reggie, is not a witch. She is applying for a job and she gets it, and it's too good to be true. It's the perfect job for her, and it pays an unreal amount of money. She gets there, and she's basically helping a witch. So she thinks that it's a crazy old lady who just is delusional, but she's actually a witch. So she decides that, it's worth the money. She's going to stick it out at least for a month to try and get that paycheck. And she is turned into a cat at one point. So she realizes that maybe magic is real. But I really respect her for pushing out, holding out for a long time, because I would probably be hesitant to believe too. But a curse is put on her employer, and she has to work with her moody nephew to try and fix it. So there, once again, romance ensues. But yeah, this one's really fun too. And like I said, just the whole witchy romance thing. It's so fun.
And it's fun that there's so many subcategories to romances now.
Seriously.
So like witchy romances.
Yes.
We were talking a little bit about there's like a sciencey kind of nerdy one now with what was that book?
Allie Hazelwood is the author.
There's so many, like, if there's a subgenre for you out
For
there.
everything.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. These are both really fun, and I actually can't say enough about either. Rom-com, contemporary, and I would say more recently too, I wasn't a contemporary reader, and I think I was yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, but these rom-com ones are just like perfect, and I just can't say enough. The Kiss Quotient, which I think you've read as well, and I need to read more Helen Huang now because this is fantastic. She is kind of type A and kind of like a little bit like on the spectrum. And she has a really demanding job, and she's nervous about like how good she is with relationships, and she decides to hire a male escort. Um, and it's just it's a lovely premise, and you can just like picture what happens from there. I'm trying not to give away too much. It's darling. There's the best scene where he takes her back to his family's, and they're yelling at each other, and the grandma has like some loud like opera blaring. His sisters are fighting, and she's like, what is going on? And she's either like an only child or from like a small family, and she's just like, this is
Completely overwhelmed.
yeah, yeah. So it's really sweet how he like kind of learns like, what her like, what's comfortable for her and what she needs, and it's very sweet. And then spoiler alert, by Olivia Dade, and now I need to read everything Olivia Dade has done. There's like a Game of Thrones type show that's very popular, and people write fan fiction online, and she's a super fan. She writes fiction under like an assumed name. One of the stars of the show doesn't like the way he is being written in the show, and he writes fan fiction, like shipping certain characters and puts it up, and he would get in tons of trouble if the show found out because it would show that he wasn't like supporting the writers and all of this, and like they slowly figure out that, yeah, and it's fantastic.
Okay, so my next one, this is, I think, the first romance that I read, rom-com, contemporary, also the best. I don't think I've ever beaten it. It's The Hating Game. Some of you may recognize the title because it just became a movie this past year, and they did an excellent job on the movie. I think, I read it about 4 years ago, so that probably helps.
Yeah,
I forgot a
like
few
blur
things,
it out.
so it makes the movie a little better probably. But this is the story of Lucy and Josh. They work at a company that was merged together, so they consider each other rivals. They hate each other, but hate sometimes is just as passionate as love is, and confused for the other. So they play little like tricks and games with each other and just drive each other nuts. And they are both up for a promotion, and so they're fighting for the promotion. And it's a super fun book. Lucy is so quirky. She collects Smurfs. It's so sweet. I love it. And it's one of those books where you can really see how someone's trauma or their past affects how they are. And, they hate each other, but then they start to learn a little bit more about each other and why they are the way they are. And, that's very realistic, I think. So I like that a lot.
I have to, it's on my list.
Yeah, read it and then watch the movie.
Oh, I'm gonna do a Netflix one, which is a really cozy one, and I watched the show first. I'm like, okay, I have to read this. And there's a bunch of books in the series, Virgin River by Robin Carr. And yeah, years ago I would think, oh, this is just kind of cozy. This is gonna be boring. It's really charming and wonderful. She's a nurse who's kind of had enough of a big city, decides to move to just sell everything, move to like a small town and start over. And there's a hunky barkeeper down the way, but like little quirky kind of small town characters. She works for this like crazy doctor, and there's only like like one doctor in town, and like everyone knows each other's business, and she starts like settling into this like kind of cute fictional town, and it's really fun.
All right, my next one is called Fix Her Up. This is in a book series called the Hot and Hammered book series, so you can kind of just, take a guess about what these books are like. So very passionate. This first one is about Georgie. Her family has a home renovation business, but she is not part of it because she really just wants to be a clown, like an actual clown. So she performs at kids' birthday parties, and she just loves it. She has such a fun time, but no one really takes her seriously. So her brother's friend, who's an ex-baseball player, he stopped playing because he was injured. He is trying to get a new job and he needs them to take him seriously. He's kind of seen as a ladies' man, so he wants to be in a relationship. So they decide that they are going to fake a relationship. Once again, that never goes the way you think it's going to. So they fake a relationship so that she can be taken more seriously and it can look like he's in a relationship for his job. So it's very saucy. This is a very saucy book, but it's really fun, super cheesy, and I love there is a group that the girls have in this where they just kind of support each other and they look at each other's problems and help them solve them and they make sure that they're accountable for them, and I really love that. I feel like we all need that.
That's nice. And it's Tessa Bailey who
Yes, once again,
did the
everything
one
is wonderful.
with the sisters that we were like too. She's great. I think let's each do one more.
Yeah.
This is The Heiress Gets a Duke by Harper St. George, and I like this because it's like Gilded Age era instead of pretty much like 95% of historicals are Regency era. So this is nice. Set in England, she's an American heiress. She comes over, her father runs an ironworks that's very successful, and she has like a hand in the business. He's not totally approving of it, but she's so good at what she does, he kind of like lets her like to him it's like she's dabbling in business even though she is very passionate about it. And they just want to marry them off and get them like titles, so they have the money. So many of the aristocracy in England have like mishandled their money, so there's always dukes looking for, you know, some supplemental income. So these heiresses are like ripe for the picking. And you know, she's not interested in any of that, so she butts heads with a handsome guy, and they get invited to a house party at his estate, and it's great. And then I did the second book too, which is her little sister. Oh, and the third book is their brother, who is in America for the first two, but then he comes over. So it's really, really fun series.
All right, my last one is called The Bromance Book Club. And that's the title of the series as well. I think there's about 5 of these now too, with another one coming out soon. So in this first one, the main character, Gavin, he finds out about a pretty serious lie in his marriage that is kind of devastating. So he really needs help. He's just not expecting to get it from the Bromance Book Club. So there's this group of guys, most of them are athletes. There's some baseball, hockey, football, and they have this book club where they read romance novels that teach them how to be better men, better husbands, better lovers, and it's just wonderful. You know, this concept of men holding each other accountable for being better men. So it's really fun, and it's nice to see that because I feel like you don't get that in a lot of romances. But I like this one a lot. All the other books in the series are wonderful. They're all great. The most recent one is probably the funniest because the character is just really goofy. But these are all super fun. Like I said, men supporting men, just expecting them to be better. So
And is each one a different member of the
yeah,
book club?
they're each one of the other guys. So that's always fun. Like some of the other ones we were talking about, you get to know these characters, you like them, and then you get to see their story in the next book. And the characters from the first book show up again, so they're not,
like seeing
they're
them,
not
like,
gone.
later, yeah.
It's nice to see that. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It's so much fun to
me.
talk to another romance lover. So, and I'd love it if you came back on and talked
for sure.
about more. So thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you to my guest. And we'll hope you tune in again.